How long should we keep waiting? We sef no know o.
You guys should be patient.
Jessica, Tony, and Ben were already at the park, still in their NYSC uniforms, with their bags beside them. They had been waiting for their friend, Garud, who arrived a few hours late and immediately apologized for keeping them there for so long. They were waiting because Garud's father had died, and he was taking them to his village for the burial. Now, the funny thing is this, the three of them, Jessica, Tony, and Ben, had been friends long before NYSC. Same place, same school, same background. Garud was the new one. They met him during service year at the camp, became close, and that was how he ended up being part of the group. So when he told them about his father's death and invited them along, they didn't think twice. They got into the car and started the journey. At first, everything felt normal. But as they kept going, the road just kept stretching. Towns disappeared. Network went off. The place became quieter and quieter. Somewhere along the way, they started finding it funny. The distance. How far the village seemed. They joked among themselves about how far the place was, about how civilization clearly hadn't reached there yet. Garud didn't say much. He just kept driving. Hours passed. And by the time they realized it, the road had taken them far away from anything familiar. That was when the joke slowly died down, and the journey stopped feeling funny. So after that long journey, they finally arrived. The village was remote, quiet in a way that felt unfamiliar. It wasn't the kind of place you pass by accident. You had to be taken there. Garud led them straight to his family house. And when they got there, they saw it wasn't a regular house at all. It was made up of large round huts, arranged in a circle, leaving an open space right in the middle. Everything looked old, deliberate, and untouched by time. They stood there for a moment, taking it all in. This was the point where questions formed in their eyes. They didn't say much out loud, but their expression said enough. The place didn't look like anywhere they had been before. Garud told them he was going to get food and stepped away, leaving them alone in the compound. That was when the reality of where they were truly sank in. The village felt far from civilization, not just in distance, but in presence. There was no noise. No rush. Even the air felt different. When they checked their phones, the network came and went, weak and unreliable, as if the village itself rejected outside connection. They sat there quietly, exchanging looks, holding back their thoughts. And in that silence, one thing became clear to all of them. This was not just a village that was far. It was a village that felt cut off. Not long after, Garud's mother and uncle came out to greet them. They welcomed them properly, the way elders do, and made them feel like guests, at least on the surface. After that, Jessica, Tony, and Ben changed their clothes and decided to take a short stroll around the village. As they walked, something felt off. People stopped what they were doing just to look at them. The stares weren't curious or hostile, they were filled with pity. And when the three of them greeted anyone they passed, no one answered. Not a single response. What made it more unsettling was that Garud wasn't with them. They continued walking until a little girl suddenly ran up to them. She said Garud was looking for them. When they told her they would come later, she said something that made all of them pause.
Once the sun sets, nobody should be outside their home.
They were shocked by what she said. At first, they laughed it off. They assumed she meant wild animals or something ordinary. But as evening crept closer, they noticed something strange. people were already packing up. Shops closed. Movements became hurried. The village slowly began to empty. The little girl who had been standing in front of them suddenly ran off. That was when the laughter stopped. With the sun sinking and the village growing quiet, they decided it was best to turn back. And as they walked away, one thought sat heavily in their minds. Whatever happened in this village, happened at night. So that same evening, they were all inside one of the huts with Garud. They talked about NYSC, shared stories, laughed, and drank palm wine like nothing was wrong. For a moment, the tension from outside faded, and it almost felt normal again. But Jessica couldn't shake the feeling. She asked Garud about what they had seen earlier in the village. About the stairs. About the warning from the little girl. She was trying not to sound worried, but the nervousness was already there. Garud answered her.
They aren't used to seeing new faces.
Whatever he said didn't fully convince her. She still felt uneasy. But Tony and Ben brushed it off, telling her Garud was right and that it was nothing serious. They laughed it out, and slowly the moment passed. That night, the three of them slept in the hut together. Later, Jessica's phone rang softly in the darkness. It was her grandmother, checking on her. Jessica told her she was fine, that everything was okay. Before ending the call, her grandmother reminded her not to forget to pray. After the call, as Jessica was about to lie down, she noticed something by the window. A vulture. It was standing there quietly, its shape clear under the moonlight. Jessica froze, staring at it, her heart racing. The bird didn't move. It just watched. Then Tony shifted in his sleep and woke up. When Jessica looked again, the vulture was gone. She tried to tell him what she had seen, but he brushed it off and told her to go back to sleep, that it was too early for fear. So she lay back down. But even as she closed her eyes, she wasn't sure anymore whether what she saw was real, or whether the village was already beginning to play with her mind. The next morning, they woke up to a different mood in the village. Garud met them early and suggested they go to the village stream. From there, he walked them around, showing them parts of the village as preparations for the burial slowly began. Goats were dragged into the compound. Yams were brought in. People moved back and forth with purpose. The whole place felt busy, alive in a way it hadn't the day before. The three of them watched everything with amusement. To them, it felt like culture, something new, something to experience. Ben even took out his notebook and started writing things down. He said he might use the experience as a project later. Jessica complained again about the poor network, how her phone barely worked. Tony, on the other hand, was already having fun. When a few drummers arrived and started playing, he joined them, picked up a flute drum, and danced along, laughing freely. By evening, they sat together and talked about their relationships. They laughed at each other's choices, teased one another, and even joked about how Garud had almost had a heart attack when his girlfriend broke up with him. The laughter came easily that night. After everything, they went back inside and slept. But later that night, Ben woke up to ease himself. As he stepped outside, he heard voices, low, whispered, careful. Something about the way they spoke made him stop. He stayed back and listened. At first, the words didn't make sense. Then slowly, they became clearer. They were talking about meat. About it not being complete for the burial ceremony. Ben realized it was Garud's uncle speaking to an unfamiliar man who sounded anxious. The man asked how many meat they had, and Garud's uncle replied that they had 3. Ben didn't think much of it at first. But just as he was about to leave, the other man suddenly snapped and said something that made Ben's heart drop.
We needed 2 boys and 2 girls, not 2 boys and 1 girl.
Ben froze where he stood, hidden in the dark, his hands beginning to shake. Something about the conversation felt deeply wrong, and he prayed he had misunderstood. Then Garud's uncle said something that drained the blood from his face. He said there was now 1 boy and 1 girl left to take down. Ben couldn't move. A cloud of powder had engulfed his face, seizing his breath, making his eyes twinkle with involuntary shock, and sending his senses spinning into dizziness, a deliberate assault orchestrated by the mischievous familiar hand, a hand he knew well. His body locked instantly. His legs gave way. His vision blurred as dizziness washed over him. As he collapsed, the last thing he saw was Garud's uncle standing over him, smiling. His teeth looked yellow in the dim light as he spoke.
I told you. Just 1 boy and 1 girl left to take down.
And then, everything went blank.